Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm going to make a video explaining what Ethereum Classic is and why it's still around. Does anyone still buy this coin? Why is it still so popular? Why is it still so high up on CoinMarketCap? Well, I'm going to explain this video. So many of you who haven't been around for a really long time, I'm sure you've seen this coin and have wondered, is this some kind of copycat of Ethereum and it's trying to steal its glory or something like that? Like, what exactly is going on here? So Ethereum Classic has been around for a long time. It's been around since 2016, and it's been a top altcoin in the sense that it's been represented amongst, the pool of like top, 10, 20, maybe 30 altcoins that has stuck around, and many altcoins have come and gone in that time, but Ethereum Classic is generally stuck around, even though its price action tends to be a little subpar compared to other things. It still begs the question, like, why does it have a trading volume of over 100 million still? Like, what exactly is going on here? So I want to tell a story about Ethereum's founding, and basically something happened, only about a year into its founding. It was 2016. You had something called the DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization, and it was made up of the founder of Ethereum, which is Vitalik Buterin, a number of developers and people very high up in Ethereum, and with them they had a treasury, I think, that was almost around 15% of the Ethereum's total supply. Like, it was maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. I can't remember exactly, but it was a huge amount of money at the time, and that money was dedicated to the to developing the Ethereum blockchain and making it what it's basically become today. That was an investment fund, and there was a hack that occurred during that time on that fund, and the hacker was able to walk away with basically hundreds of millions of dollars. And there was a debate that happened in the Ethereum community, and that was whether or not there was going to be a vote on whether or not Ethereum was going to fork and make another version of the Ethereum blockchain where the hack didn't happen. They'd basically be able to go back in time and reverse that hack from ever occurring, so the Ethereum DAO could hold on to their funds and continue development of their project. And there was a really strong debate about this, because one of the principles of cryptocurrency, one of the things that makes Bitcoin so valuable is that it has what's called non-reversible transactions, which means some people would like to call that immutable. That's the correct term I'm looking for. So when you send funds to someone, it doesn't matter if it was a mistake, doesn't matter if it was stolen, doesn't matter if it was a hack. Once those funds are sent to somebody else, that transaction can't be undone. So for those that aren't so familiar with cryptocurrency, this would seem like this is not a good thing, because this ultimately will empower hackers and stuff like that. And to be honest, there is a case to be made about that. It's part of the reason why the black market as a whole is essentially denominating their assets in cryptocurrency, right? They can hide their assets there, and any funds that are accrued from scams or hacks like that, it can't be taken back from the victim. So there is a point to be made about the fact that cryptocurrency can ultimately be a safe haven for criminals, because even if there was some kind of some kind of arbitration or something like that, there's no way that this can be undone, which is different to it tends to be different for other payment methods like banks or something like that. You can, if you send funds to somebody else, you can call up your bank, say, hey, the Prince of Juju land, he tricked me with some kind of scam, and they can make they can basically file like a reverse transaction. And frequently, in fact almost always in the case of many banks will side on the side of the person making the complaint, and if it's within their ability, they will actually reverse that transaction. And this isn't something that seems like a big problem for the average person, but particularly for vendors, people who are selling stuff, this is absolutely the case for anyone who's done drop shipping, anyone who's used PayPal to buy and sell things. They know the frustration of what it's like to be scammed, because it's so easy for someone to sell something. Like, you might sell someone something on eBay, right? You sell a fridge, right? It costs $3,000. You send it to the person who bought it. They receive the item, and then maybe that person opens up a dispute on eBay or PayPal and says, hey, I never received the item. And theoretically, they can just claw that money back from from you, right? So if those funds are in PayPal, PayPal can just lock those funds and then give it back to the buyer if you lose that dispute. Or maybe the buyer goes as far as actually calling their bank and saying, hey, I want you to reverse this transaction because I was scammed. And the bank can then go to PayPal and reverse that transaction. And ultimately, when it comes down to, this is maybe more of an extreme example, or that it does happen frequently to sellers, but you can extrapolate this to a lot of things. Ultimately, you don't really own your money, because frequently, even if you send funds to somewhere, technically those funds can just, the transaction can essentially just be reversed, right? And ultimately, this is a problem with cash in general and money. You don't really own your own funds, because the custodian of your funds, aka banks, PayPal, these different services, they can essentially just undo your transactions. They can tell you what you can and can't do with your money. And this is a big problem. That's why things like Bitcoin exist. It makes it so you actually do have control over your funds, for good or bad. Once funds are sent, that's it. It's done, right? But this is great for people selling funds, or just great for transactions in general, because the last thing you want is for you to sell something, you've sent the goods away, and then for someone to just say, oh, actually I never received the funds, and then claw back that money from you via the custodian of your funds, right? So this is why Bitcoin is so valuable, right? When there was a decision made to fork the Ethereum blockchain and essentially undo that transaction, the hack, on the one hand, it seems like, well, it's good that the hack was undone. The hacker was essentially thwarted, although that wasn't the case technically. There was a really big ideological debate that happened in the Ethereum community, because if they set a precedent where the Ethereum Foundation could essentially fork the blockchain in situations such as this, what's stopping them from doing it again? It's also reducing the trust in Ethereum as a cryptocurrency in general, because it means that a centralized force can essentially play God with crypto, and then you have to ask, is it really that much different to a centralized currency like, the US dollar or the Australian dollar or the Zimbabwean dollar, right? A centralized power can come and say, we don't like this transaction, we're just going to undo it. Now, to be fair, this is something that's only happened once in its history, right? This happened 8 years ago, and at the time, but you have to understand as well, like, at the time, Ethereum had only been in existence for 1 year. So the fact that this huge event happened only a year after its founding basically killed a lot of trust that was had in the Ethereum project. And the founders and the DAO and the people that were responsible for forking Ethereum went off with the Ethereum that we have now. That's the main Ethereum, right? That's Ethereum with no name after it, just Ethereum, right? But a large group of people in the Ethereum community decided to continue to go on with Ethereum Classic, because they believed that instilled the original values that Ethereum was supposed to have as a cryptocurrency, and these heretics had gone off and basically gone against their primary modus operandi, which was to increase centralization and reduce centralization over the blockchain, right? So the people that went with Ethereum Classic were the more hardcore libertarian types who believed, well, what Ethereum was supposed to originally stand for. And to be fair, they had a real point. I think that what Ethereum did was unforgivable, and it's actually, why a big reason why Bitcoiners hate, well, Bitcoin maxis in particular, hate Ethereum. And they have a very good point about Ethereum, being centralized. And it's one of the reasons why, although I do love what Ethereum does, I think what they did back then is something that should never be forgotten. That being said, now that I've got the story out of the way, the question is, why are people still buying it? So I want to make a point that the actual holders of this coin are essentially in a permanent state of protest. They're not really thinking about what Ethereum Classic is doing as a chain, what it's doing as a business, not what the roadmap is or anything like that. Holding Ethereum Classic is simply and purely just a form of protest. There's nothing really more to it to that. And over time, there are less and less protesters as time goes on. I mean, it's been 8 years since the DAO attack, so Ethereum Classic was the most prominent at the time that this happened because there was a huge loss in confidence in Ethereum. But over time, Ethereum hasn't, done anything too untoward towards its own principles. There hasn't been another fork since then. There hasn't been a loss in leadership. It's not certain that they're increasingly going in a trend of centralization. So naturally, there are less and less people that are protesting. But there are still a lot of people who are in the state of protest, and that's a big reason for them to hodl. And a lot of these people hold huge amounts of Ethereum. These are people who were in the pre-sale of Ethereum way back when. These were big people in the Ethereum Foundation who decided to not go with the dictates of the where a lot of the Ethereum Foundation was going. And I want to make a point as well that Ethereum Classic is very heavily favored by miners. So there are a lot of people that have been mining Ethereum for a long time, and Ethereum requires its own specialized hardware. I don't know if you can exactly be mining Ethereum Classic with, ASICs, the kind of things that you could be using to mine Bitcoin with. But if you wanted to be an Ethereum miner, you had to buy and invest in a lot of equipment to become a viable Ethereum miner. And Ethereum, for most of its history, has been proof of work. That means in order to basically mine the blocks on the blockchain, and to actually process transactions, you actually needed people to mine it, kind of like the way you did Bitcoin. And it's only in the past, I think, 2 years where Ethereum transferred to proof of stake, which means that to process transactions, people essentially just have to stake their Ethereum, and they can do the job that miners were originally doing. And these miners, had huge sway in the community because they're ultimately the ones that are responsible for the security of the blockchain. And all of a sudden, once proof of stake came into being, those people are essentially out of work, right? So it's because of this reason that a lot of these people decided to just start mining on Ethereum Classic, and this became a big reason for them to start supporting Ethereum Classic. And every time they mine Ethereum Classic, they're simply just selling it right away. So it's not necessarily good for the Ethereum blockchain. And ultimately, they're just all these miners going onto Ethereum Classic are just hollowing out the value of Ethereum Classic in general, because there are only so many dedicated protesters who are basically hodling Ethereum Classic. But then you've got all these Ethereum miners, just dumping all this ETC, on the spot market. And this is why over time Ethereum Classic is going to just continue to die faster and faster, because these miners have no reason to hodl themselves, right? So they've got to sell it, the moment they get it, to pay for electricity and stuff like that, pay for hardware. There's just not enough of these people that are willing to actually hold it. So who are the other people that are still willing to buy all this freshly mined Ethereum Classic? So besides like this small group of like dedicated libertarian types who are still protesting like a decision made years ago that most people currently can't remember, there is these are a lot of the people that are interested in buying are simply acting on speculation, right? So they want to simply get a cheap version of Ethereum that kind of rides the coattails of Ethereum's rising and falling, right? So Ethereum is fantastically performing asset. It's done very well over the years, but over time, it's just becoming more and more expensive, and as a result, the volatility to the upside is, or maybe even the downside, is just not going to be as much as it becomes bigger and bigger. But there are a number of people who are speculating who just want more action. They just want more exposure to the rising and falling of Ethereum. And these kinds of people are prone to buy Ethereum Classic. So when you see Ethereum go up by, when it does like a 2 or 3x, frequently many people will decide that Ethereum Classic is going to go up just because it's associated with Ethereum. They're then going to put a bunch of money into Ethereum Classic, and because it's got less liquidity generally than Ethereum, it has these massive volatile spikes, and that's why you see, like on the chart, you see like Ethereum Classic tends to go up just that it does absolutely nothing, and then it just goes up in this ridiculous straight line that doesn't really last very long. So prior to these like straight lines where it just goes up, Ethereum's done a massive pump, and everyone's just trying to think, how can I take advantage of the Ethereum pump? And it's kind of similar to like, when Shiba Inu pumps, then you'll see like all these copycat coins, like, Kinu, Inu, Dog Inu, whatever Inu, right? They pump, right? Or when Doge pumped massively, right? Then you had the rise of Shiba Inu. And then when you had Shiba Inu, you had all these other ones, right? All these other copycats, right? And there's a similar dynamic that happens with Bitcoin Cash, right? When Bitcoin pumps, Bitcoin Cash pumps, a lot of it will just be because of speculators wanting to take advantage of, hoping that other people will buy Bitcoin Cash simply because Bitcoin is going up, right? So that's a big thing. But as a whole, Ethereum Classic is an absolutely dead blockchain, and it's sad because I think that the protesters had a point, and I think it was good that they made their point clear that it wasn't okay with what Ethereum did. But the reality is, it's got no endowment fund, right? Like, so once the hack happened, like they're on the version of the blockchain where the hack happened. So huge amounts of money was lost. And for those that did decide to stick around with Ethereum Classic, they had no treasury, they had no money. Whereas Ethereum, like the one that, the one we know today, they forked their version of the forked Ethereum. They still have all that money to play with, right? And that's how Ethereum was able to continue to develop into what it's become now, which is frankly a huge success, right? They did that because, well, they essentially did a reverse transaction and undid, they undid the damage. But the version of the unforked blockchain basically kept the damage, and they ultimately had no treasury to continue funding projects and the development of the coin. So it's got no treasury, it has no endowment fund, and as a result, there's no reason for anyone to decide to continue to develop on the blockchain because there's no money. You can't make any money doing it unless you're going to be a philanthropist and work for free, but no one actually does it. And there's not really any leadership as well for the most part, so there's no roadmap, there's no planned future for Ethereum Classic, there's no development, it's just a completely dead chain. And as a result, like Ethereum Classic won't be around forever. Like these protesters aren't going to be keeping up forever. All this dumped ETC isn't, it can't continue to be absorbed at the rate it's still being absorbed at. So over time, Ethereum Classic is going to die, and there's really zero reason to hold it unless you want to basically just try and make a quick pump, make some money off a pump, when Ethereum pumps. But besides that, there's absolutely no reason to hold. In fact, the only reason why someone might be buying Ethereum Classic outside of the reasons that I've mentioned would be purely because of mistake. And it sounds crazy, but like when you think about the fact that Bitcoin Cash, who I'm not totally against, the fact is they still own Bitcoin.com. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's the case. If I go to it right now, Bitcoin.com, if I go there, let's go there. So this is like the main, this is pretty much the Bitcoin Cash website, right? And it says Bitcoin.com, buy your first Bitcoin today, get Bitcoin. You can scan the app. You can do all these different things. But the reality is, like, it's for Bitcoin Cash, right? They would just, and I mean, at the end of the day, Bitcoin Cash is really like original Bitcoin, I mean, Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin the one we have now, they had a very similar falling out to Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. But Bitcoin Cash still has some like legacy to it, and they were able to snag the bitcoin.com domain. So there's all these people who are brand new to Bitcoin. They just come and they're like, how to buy Bitcoin. Oh wow, bitcoin.com, that sounds like the official website of Bitcoin, which is really ridiculous. But this is in fact a huge amount of volume for Bitcoin Cash. A lot of people get into Bitcoin Cash because they thought it was the original Bitcoin. They thought this is what Bitcoin is, Bitcoin Cash. And they come to the website, they buy it, and they end up with Bitcoin Cash, right? So the same thing is with Ethereum Classic. There's so many people that decide, I don't want like this original, like all these different flavors of Ethereum. I want Ethereum Classic, like Coke Classic, right? So as a result, people will buy Ethereum Classic simply for that reason. And I know it sounds like a stupid reason, but that is in fact a big reason. So yeah, that's really it for this video, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. If you like this channel, make sure to subscribe and use my referral links in the description down below. If you're interested in buying cryptocurrency without KYC, use my referral links in the description down below I've got a number of suggestions to buy cryptocurrency using peer-to-peer cryptocurrency exchanges. On these exchanges, you don't have to provide any KYC, and you can buy and sell cryptocurrency for any payment method that you could possibly imagine. You can buy and sell cryptocurrency with things as diverse as gift cards. You can use PayPal. You can use TransferWise, Revolut. You can't do these things on normal centralized exchanges, and you don't need KYC to sign up. So I think it's really good for you to sign up with my referral link, and it keeps this channel going. And I'll see you next time.